Welcome to Executives at the Edge, a podcast brought to you by MEF. I'm your host, Pascal Menezes. Join me as we explore thought-provoking perspectives from the leaders and changemakers who are propelling enterprise digital transformation forward. I'm really so excited to have Eric Seaman, and he is an independent advisor in the LATAM region, but he's really been the CTO for over 30 years of many service providers in that region of LATAM. And Eric is a member of our LATAM Council in MEF and plays a very significant role in that council. And Eric I believe you're going to cover a lot in automation in the LATAM region. So with that, I want to welcome you to Executives at the Edge. And if you can just help our listeners for this episode, give us a little bit of a background about yourself, that'd be appreciated.
My background is in telecommunications. I've been working during the last 30 years in management positions, leading projects on mainly in transport, data, networks, and internet around different telcos.
So, Eric, thank you for the background. You have quite an impressive background. You say close to 30 years, over 30 years in telecom. And you are the CTO of many companies, including Tigo recently. And can you tell us a little bit more about what do you see in LATAM to be able to stay in the market? We talk about automation, we'll be doing it in MEF. We talk a lot about that in the LATAM Council. Can you help articulate what you're seeing in LATAM?
Well, I see that automation plays a crucial role in the telecom wholesale landscape in LATAM, mainly due to the increase in the demand of bandwidth, the digital transformation, 5G, cloud adoption. With all these things, the demand is exploding. Also, the fact that the landscape in the market has changed so much. The price erosion and different products growing on top of the basic transport networks have changed the market landscape. So I see that these things force companies to handle these increasing bandwidth, increasing network complexity, and manage larger volumes of traffic and offer new dynamic on-demand services. So in this context, I see automation enabling the scaling and diversification of operations to meet these demands without increasing operational cost.
Now, Eric, in LATAM, I believe you live in Guatemala, correct?
That is correct.
Now, you know the LATAM culture and the environment and the region really well. What exactly is going on in that region? Is automation a must-have? Is it happening everywhere? Is it just kind of nascent and just starting? Can you help our listeners a little more about what is really going on in that region? Because LATAM is a really big area. And greater innovations, I remember putting up data centers everywhere. Transports are still very predominant. High-speed fibers going everywhere. Can you help us with our listeners with what's going on with the region?
Yeah, I feel that the scenarios are changing in such a fast pace that everybody's trying to keep up with these new things. New products like SD-WAN, the need of security, businesses looking for digital transformation, all these things happening so fast that I believe that the region is struggling to keeping up with the speed of of these things.
So, Eric, I've gone to other regions in the world and they talk about that, I hire people at very inexpensive prices. They can really do the work of automation. Do you see that kind of mentality still really around and happening in the LATAM region? Or have they really gone to the point of, no, automation is a must-have because it removes outages, it removes errors, it makes everything in cloud-like speeds. Do you really start seeing that mentality happening in the region that all the operators are getting it, they're investing in automation?
I believe that people understands that automation is important, and they're trying to keep up with the pace in which the things are happening. However, again, there's a lot of complexity. There's a lot of legacy systems. There's a lot of still things that need to happen before automation becomes a reality in the region.
So you're on the MEF LATAM Council, and you're highly involved with that region of automating. That's one of the main goals, I think, in the LATAM Council. And what do you think? How do you think standards MEF has been working with connecting all the providers worldwide into an automation plane that's standardized by MEF APIs, automation APIs, and including smart contracts and so on? What do you think is the role of MEF to really help companies in the LATAM achieve successful automation?
I believe that the MEF role is so important. First of all, because it helps the players in our markets to understand what the importance and what the the path is to reach and obtain the advantages of automation. We understand that the time is approaching quickly when without industry standards APIs, it will be practically impossible for carriers to compete in the international arena. So under that assumption, Latin companies need to expedite the adoption of these standards to be able to collaborate with global carriers around the world.
Now, when you talk about LATAM region, do they, I know there's a lot of local loops, there's a lot of connectivity. Is it a lot of fiber in the LATAM region being built up to the actual homes, like fiber to the homes, fiber to the buildings? Is it mainly wireless in some parts of the region that has to be used because there's not enough, laterals and fiber? Is that region still building out with all of that capacity?
I believe the answer is yes. There's a lot of fiber in the areas where the markets are important for the telcos. There's a lot of fiber granularity. In main cities, I see a lot of growth of GPON and fiber to the home and fiber to the businesses. There's a lot of fiber. Also, I see a lot of activity around the wireless arena, and companies are growing on 5G and wireless technologies. So there's a lot of that, and that makes the scenario complex because there's a lot of growth. There's a lot of also a lot of legacy. And networks become more and more complex. So yeah, there's a lot of activity in the region, a lot of bandwidth growth, and a lot of market demands around it.
Now, what are the services that can be automated? I mean, certainly, you talk about there's a retail wholesale model, right? There's wholesalers that basically sell to other providers who are only enterprise customers who then want to buy connectivity in the region. That's kind of the retail wholesale model, right? I will call it that.
Absolutely.
And there are a lot of wholesalers that have local loops to all parts of LATAM that have fiber loops, even wireless loops, copper loops, whatever. What is the benefit that allows these telecom wholesale companies in LATAM to start adopting automation? I mean, is it the buy-sell becomes very fast, very easy to do business with, all by machines? It's the accuracy is better, the settlement is better versus disputes. What exactly are the benefits?
Well, I believe there's a lot of benefit in automating things like the business process, the provisioning, the quoting, the monitoring, the service orchestration. First of all, it reduces operational costs. You know, when we do things manually, there's errors, there's less agility than doing it automatically. So the operational effort gets reduced significantly. Also, the time to market, the agility, the speed to put up services again through complex networks, it gets improved a lot. Also, the customer experience, when the customer has a visibility of the process through automation, has a web portal, and it is able to manage closely what's going on. There's a better customer experience around this. And finally, I would say that the sustainability of the process, depends on automation, because the amount of transactions grows exponentially as the bandwidth grows.
Now, Eric, what is the main driver? Is it, I know MEF has pioneered Carrier Ethernet and has 80 billion on market. We know Carrier Ethernet is big and continues to grow, but we see these IP services, especially DIA, coming online because more and more companies and enterprises are saying, I'm working from home, I'm working from anywhere. Just give me an IP local loop and I'll get to a nearest POP and hit from there a business network versus using the internet for everything. So what exactly, wavelengths now when you see AI, people are buying wavelengths for AI training across data centers. What is it kind of like, if you can help the listeners, what is the growth of demand? Is it, I know transports is very big, but or is it overlays or cybersecurity? I can imagine transports are still very big. And is it IP services? Is it carry Ethernet? Is it wavelengths? Is it what exactly are the services that we need to automate?
Well, I feel that at least in the wholesale arena, the growth is around layer two private services. The 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 provisioning of these services through internet is also significant. So I believe that what's going on, what's growing the most in the region, is the requirements for companies around the world looking for terminations in Latin America, utilizing private layer two services.
And these layer two services allows them to put their own routing layer on top.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
So
Uh,
people want layer two because they don't have to worry about IP addresses. All that. They can buy these layer two links and connect them to all of their sites and locations and data centers around the world. And then they can build their own private IP network on top of that layer two. Is that the main use case of layer two?
Absolutely, it's a clean way to provide a platform for companies to activate their other services on top of that.
And it's private because it's a layer two network. It's only built for them and then connectivity wise, and then they can build their own IP routing layer on top, and then so on, add on top of that. And so, what are the key advantages in LATAM for adopting this automation, and especially for layer two, and for other services in coming up in transports, wavelengths, IP. But how do you see the challenges that's stopping these LATAM from adopting the automation?
Well, the first challenge I see is, as I mentioned before, the legacy infrastructure. There's a lot of legacy systems that are not ready for automation. So that requires a gradual migration strategy in order to be able to implement automation and standardize this kind of automation with other players in the world. I see also another challenge around multi-vendor environments. A multi-vendor becomes a challenge, especially because automating requires move around all these different systems with different vendors, different proprietary things, and allow them communicate. Each other becomes very very difficult. Also, I think that automation requires investment, definitely, and because of the budgeting restrictions and the way that the market is behaving, companies are putting more and more focus on capital investment and definitely are trying to reduce operational costs. So justifying investments for automation, it's a challenge. It's difficult, but because typically automation it not necessarily relates to the main activities in the value chain. Another challenge I see is security. APIs opens networks to issues around security vulnerabilities, things like that. So it is really necessary to take that in account. And one last one I will think of, it's that when we automate, we are working on an active network, a network that is providing services. So service disruptions because of implementing automation can be really a problem. So it requires smooth transitions and smooth planning and work on a live network. It's like an open heart surgery. So I see these things, Pascal.
Kind of very interesting. Now, what about people? Their jobs, machines are displacing people. We see that very commonly. Many other operators, as they automate, they don't need the people to do the manual processes. Do the people get in the way of this, and because it means their job security? Do you see that as part of the challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's the mentality that automation will replace, human activity. I think that in reality, what's happening is that automation increases the capability of companies to scale, their networks and their activities, basically doing more with less. Yes, but yes, the mentality and the fear that automation will replace jobs and things like that exist in our context.
Yeah, it's like the Industrial Revolution when people were working machine, assembly lines. Now we know it's all robots and machines, but yet people moved on to do better, more productive,
Right.
meaningful work. I think that will happen eventually. You're in the service provider communities where many of these people who are doing the manual work will move on to better jobs for themselves. So I do agree that I think, while at first people put up a resistance, I think eventually they come to grapple that, hey, there are many, many better jobs I could be doing with myself than doing these manual kind of monotonous stuff. So Eric, it's been interesting. Thank you for being on the MEF LATAM Council. I think there's some innovative, great ideas and action items we're working on to really automate the region and do some other great key initiatives. So with that, I want to thank you for being on Executives at the Edge and for this episode. And I think our listeners will find this very interesting about what's going on in the LATAM region and how automation plays a very critical role. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for Executives at the Edge. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe today,
share online, and review. Find all our episodes on your favorite podcast platform and at MEF.net.
Enterprises worldwide are accelerating digital transformation by prioritizing cybersecurity, cloud migration, and AI-driven applications. Increasingly, they're turning to network as a service to achieve business objectives of enhanced efficiency, agility, and customer experience without having to build and maintain their own infrastructure. The industry is responding with new service offerings, automated procurement, and delivery, all enabled by an integrated ecosystem of service and technology partners. And it's all coming together at GNE. The Global NAS event taking place in Dallas, Texas, October 28 to 30. GNE will gather an impressive collection of executives, decision makers, and thought leaders who are central to the development of the NAS industry. They include enterprises, service and technology providers, system integrators, and the media and analyst community. These industry leaders will discuss NAS industry progress and plans in the areas of what enterprises want, what are service providers delivering, and what are their plans, and when will true end-to-end NAS automation be a reality. The event program features the LSO Automation Summit, all about automating with lifecycle service orchestration. 2 days of conference keynotes, presentations, and panels, featuring an outstanding lineup of industry speakers, structured time, and excellent facilities to network with your customers, providers, and peers. NAS in action demonstrations, the annual NAS Excellence Awards dinner, exciting social activities, and more. So register now at gne.mef.net.